Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I have these really fun watercolored bookmarks to share with you. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to start by cutting down some cardstock. I have a fairly large size here, and I'm going to cut it down to 2x7 is kind of 2x6 is the standard bookmark size, but I feel like 2x7 just, I don't know, I just like the dimensions a little better. No right or wrong. You cut it down to what you want it to be, but that is what I'm aiming for. And from my 9x12 sheet of watercolor cardstock here, I got 7 bookmarks. I'm only creating 3 today. So you can, cut it down or just use scraps to do this if you want to. I do intend to sell these in my shop down the road. But my main goal is to inspire people to create and hopefully make creating approachable. So if you want to create one of your own, I'm going to show you how I did it so you can absolutely do it. And honestly, I'm fairly new to watercolor. If you guys have been following along with my watercolor series, you'll see that I've been doing landscapes and I'm taking a class to do that. So watercolor is a fairly new medium to me, and if I can do these, you can do these. And now I am going to use my Magello Mission Gold watercolors, but if you don't have watercolor, you could easily, dab your ink from an ink pad on your mat, or there's so many ways to use these. You could spray a little bit of a liquid medium on the mat. You could, use watercolor pencils. Like there are so many mediums you could use if you want to recreate these and you don't happen to own watercolor paints. So keep that in mind. You don't have to have exactly what I have to create. But as always, everything I use is linked and listed down below. If you're ever interested in a specific product, you can go and check that out. But I do kind of suggest using what you have. Now, I like to add a border. Now, on the tree bookmarks, I don't know if it was necessary. I probably could have just, painted on it. But the problem is I never know how much warping I'm going to get. So I kind of like to start out, especially with something that's new to me, like these bookmarks. I wanted to tape my watercolor paper down to a hardboard just to ensure that it's going to dry fairly flat. But you don't have to do this if you don't own a hardboard. Just keep in mind that it might warp as you add water, especially the center bookmark that we're going to paint, just because I do add a fair amount of water to that because I did want some movement in my colors. But for the trees, I don't really think that you need to. So I'm going to use my flat brush. This is a 3/4 inch flat brush, and I'm going to add a fair amount of water. Like you can see it, it's glistening onto the center bookmark there. And then I'm just going to go in rainbow order. Rainbow is one of my favorite color palettes, so I gravitate towards it, but you could easily change this into something that was a little more to your taste. So if, rainbows isn't really your thing, go for a fall color palette. That would be really pretty. Go in, blues or purples or whatever tickles your pickle the right way. Do that. You don't have to use rainbow if that is not your preference. It's just that I lean that way, especially if I'm trying something new, because I know that even if I don't like the outcome, I'll love the colors. So that is kind of what I think when I do this. So my trees are also going to be rainbow order because, again, it just makes me happy. There's no right or wrong here, though. You pick a color palette that really works for you. Now I'm going to literally, they're just like blobs. Like I'm just painting weird shaped blobs. That's ultimately what I'm doing here. And I'm trying to vary the height. And we're going to add pen detail afterwards to create the tree look, right? But for now, we're just creating some like bushy looking trees. I don't know a better way to say that, but that's kind of the aim. Is I'm just kind of scribbling, leaving a little bit of white space inside of the blob, and that's really the goal here. There's no right or wrong, just make fun little blobs. And if you don't want to do this as as a bookmark, you could do this as a slimline card. Or a large slimline. Like you could do it, a mini slimline, large slimline, either way, you could make this work. Now we're going to do it again because I did tape down 3 and I thought I had another idea for the third one, but I loved the trees so much. I thought it would be fun to do it in a slightly deeper palette. So that's kind of what I ended up doing. So it's still rainbow, but it's just like a slightly darker rainbow. And in this time, the center one is drying. I did walk away from these after I had painted them to let them fully dry before I came in and did pen detail, just because I really wanted them to be completely dry. You can dry them with a heat tool or a hair dryer, anything you have on hand. But I just left and got some tea and like read a book for a little bit and then came back. So they didn't take very long, but I do want them to be completely dry before I come back and touch them again. And then the second one, I added like a teal colored tree instead of a brown one like I did on the top. No rhyme or reason. And if you don't like rainbow, again, do it in whatever color palette floats your boat. You know, if fall colors are your thing, absolutely do them in fall colors. Now, I used painter's tape for this, and sadly, it did rip up a little bit of my paper. I'm still so bummed. I'm working on finding a low-tech tape that actually works for this, and I should try washi tape, but most of the washi tape I own is like, you know, really nice ones that I bought from other artists, and I don't really want to use it just to hold down a watercolor piece of paper and then go in the garbage. So I'm a little working on finding a tape that works, that's kind of inexpensive, because it's pretty much just going to get thrown. And I just painted my house. So I have some, you know, painter's tape on hand, and this one happens to be ripping my paper a little bit, which I'm a little bummed about, but it's a learning experience. Like I said, these are brand new. Like I've never done bookmarks before, or at least watercolor bookmarks. I've never done them before. So it is always a learning curve as I create new things, but I hope that you'll try this if this is of interest to you. And if, you know, you're really uninterested in creating your own, like I said, I will have them in my shop down the road. I'm currently redoing my shop. I have an Etsy store, but I really wanted to create a Shopify store. So I'm in the middle of just building that out. And it is a bit of a learning curve. So it's taking me a little bit to kind of get there, but I will have it up, and these bookmarks will be on it, as well as some really fun digital papers that I'm working on as well. So you can keep your eye out for that. So on the kind of full background one, I'm going to draw a leaf, and there's no right or wrong way to draw it. I did pencil it out beforehand just so I had a general idea of placement, because it is such a thin, like it's only 2 inches wide. You don't have a lot of real estate here, but this was kind of inspired by the cards that I made on Monday. If you've watched that slimline video, I did a mini slimline set of cards, and I loved how that looked. And I thought it would be really fun to make a bookmark that kind of mimicked that. Now, I didn't draw a flower, although you absolutely could. I just thought like a tall, skinny leaf would be kind of fun, but there's no right or wrong. Draw whatever you want to draw here. If you don't want to draw and you just want to leave it, or stamp on it if you have stamps, like I just want you guys to be creative. I am using a brush pen for this just because I find that it gives me more inconsistency to my line, if that makes sense. I get more interest that way, whereas I find if I use just a multi-liner, I don't get quite the same, you know, all the lines are the exact same width, so it doesn't quite look as nice, in my opinion. No right or wrong, though. Do what works for you. And then for the trees, I'm just going to draw them some kind of wonky stems, or trunks, I guess they would be. And then I'm putting them up into the tree. And then we're going to take a smaller pen and kind of add just like a squiggly line around the tree. Again, like I've seen other people do this. This isn't my original idea. I just thought it was a fun way to kind of play with my watercolors and, you know, create something that was kind of fun at the same time while practicing. So it's kind of a neat way to, you know, just create something. And if you had a black brush pen, this would even, or sorry, a brown one. Mine is black. But if you had a brown one, it would even read more as trunks than my black one does. But there's, you know, use what you have. You could paint these on too. I'm using a brush pen because it gives me slightly more control, and I don't have to worry about the consistency of my paint this way. But if you are more confident in your painting skills, by all means, paint the trunks, paint the leaf. You know, you don't have to do this kind of weird brush penny thing that I'm doing. But like, this is what I mean. I have very little experience with watercolors, and I think that these turned out pretty great. You guys will have to let me know your thoughts, because, you know, I sometimes have a hard time with my own creations. I struggle to, you know, sometimes I struggle to like my work. But I think these turned out pretty cool. So you let me know your thoughts. I did go around the large, like the full background one with a pen, and I felt like it was a bit too thin. So I'm actually going to go around it again with this larger one. So I used the brush pen, like I said, for the like the larger lines. And then for the smaller lines, I'm going to go in with a Copic multiliner. It's a 01 or 0.1 size. So it's also quite thin, but it wasn't as thin as the one I just used to try to go around the border. So I am going to go back around the border with this thicker pen just to give it a little more oomph. And it just, again, you could skip the sketchy line if that's not your thing. I like texture and interest. I find it really fun. So I am going to add that, but you could skip it and just have the leaf. I just think the lines add a little bit more interest to the leaf. So it kind of adds a bit, just a little more, because it is quite a simple leaf. So but like you could draw a maple leaf if you can. Like there's so many things you could do here. And then I'm gonna use that same pen and just go around my trees and add like random detailing. It's literally just a squiggly line that goes around the blob. Like I promise, if I can do this, you absolutely can do this. So try to give it a go. If you do try it though, please tag me so I can see it. Because like I said, my biggest thing is inspiring other people. So if you ever create something that was inspired by me, tag me, because I'd love to see it. Like it's so exciting to see that you enjoyed something I made and wanted to share it with me. So please do if you recreate these, but I do promise you can recreate them. So I just went around all of the trees, even the one that kind of gets cut off on the end. I'm going to add my bookmark tassel on the cutoff end, so it kind of hides that cutoff tree, which is another reason I kind of put that line there. And then also adding that border guarantees that my trees aren't going to be too tall or too short. So it kind of is like a safety net for me so that I can't kind of like go outside of the lines, because I like to go outside of the lines, but I think that you don't get as fun of trees if you go outside the lines, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I don't know, I had so much fun with these, so you guys will have to tell me your thoughts, but I really enjoyed them. And then I am gonna just splatter on a little bit of Pink Perfect Pearls just because I don't know. Again, it's a texture thing. You don't need to do that. You could totally skip it, but I'm going to do it because it's my thing. So you're going to see it right here. I just keep my Perfect Pearls mixed up in a mini mister bottle, so it's always ready to splatter because I love splatter. If you don't like splatter, you could skip this step, or you could use white, especially on the trees. That would look really pretty, a little bit of white splatter. Actually, on the leaves too, that would just be pretty. But this just adds a little bit of subtle shimmer and shine to the project, which I really enjoy. And then I'm going to poke my hole with a hole punch. This is just so I can add my little tassel. And I just kind of chose tassels I thought matched a little bit. The rainbow leaf one got this kind of metallic white tassel, and then the two trees, one got like a brown tassel and one got a green tassel. Actually, this was probably the hardest part, was picking a tassel I felt that matched the project the best, because I got a couple of different colors because I wasn't sure what I wanted to use, and honestly, like I really struggled to pick what I wanted to use, so it was kind of funny, but yeah, so I think that these turned out really neat. I love them. I'd love to know what you guys think. Is this a kind of project you guys would be interested in seeing? I know generally my card projects do the best on the channel, but I dedicate Mondays to cards, and then I kind of leave Thursdays open to do things that inspire me. So sometimes it's art journaling, sometimes it's watercolors, sometimes it's bullet journaling, sometimes it's mixed media. Like it just, I don't know, I'd kind of jump around and experiment with different things. So you'll have to let me know if this is the kind of stuff you enjoy seeing, because I will put more of it on. If you don't enjoy seeing that, let me know that too. Like if you only want card videos, it's always good to have that feedback. So whatever you think, let me know, because I'd love to hear it. So that is the video I have for today's. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. I would love to hit 20,000 by the end of the year, and I hope that's an achievable dream. We shall see. We still have a little while left, but not crazy long, so fingers crossed we can make it. But thank you guys so much, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.